Good evening, everybody. This is Brendan Magnan, Chair of the Milford Inlands Wetlands Commission, and I'd like to call to order the August 7th, 2024 regular meeting of the Inlands Wetlands Agency. Meg, please call the roll.
Mr. Bedecker,
Yeah.
Mr. Pave,
Yeah, here.
Mr. Black,
Here.
Mr. Jim Connors. Is he
No,
not here?
he's
Okay,
not here.
sorry. Mr. Matthew Connors,
Here.
Mr. Munson,
Here.
Mr. Ricky? No, Mr. Field
Here.
and Chairman Magnan.
Here, thank you. We do have a quorum. Commissioner Buddyfield, would you please be the designated alternate?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as we get started, to remind everyone as we continue to host remote meetings, please bear in mind that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and Governor Lamont's executive orders. It's being recorded and will be made available on the City of Milford website. During the meeting, please state your name for the record before speaking. And let's see, just wait for me to recognize you before speaking. All questions should go through me as the chair and should only cover matters of the Inland Wetlands Agency. If we could all please now unmute your lines and stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. If everyone could now mute your lines, I invite anyone from the public to address the agency on matters not otherwise on the agenda. Seeing no one else in attendance, I'm going to move to item D, old business. Mary Rose, can you please introduce this one, D1?
Yep, give me 1 second because everything just disappeared. Thank you. This is item D1. It's IW 240054. It's number 34 Pearl Street. It's a proposal for a elevated single-family home at 34 Pearl Street by Pearl Street Development. They're proposing work within 22.9 feet of a wetland, wetlands that have been identified as tidal by Jim McManus, who's a professional wetland scientist. Those wetlands that he's identified are above elevation 2.9, which makes them the jurisdiction of the local agency, as DEP only regulates behind the tide gate to elevation 2.9. No work is proposed in the wetland. The house is proposed 22.9 feet away. The silt fence with hay bale erosion control barrier is proposed approximately 6.7 feet from the wetland line. To construct the foundation, they are proposing to dewater into a dewatering sack placed on the anti-tracking pad on the driveway. And dewatering discharge cannot be put into the marsh, wetland, or catch basins without additional permits. A city engineer has reviewed the plans and did ask for a set of plans that were signed and sealed by a licensed professional. Those were, and the stormwater calculations be for infiltration be updated to the 2024 manual. The plans were received today, and the stormwater calculation requirements were not quite ready. Mr. Tarantino wasn't sure when his engineer would have those revisions ready. The city engineer did state that the agency could, if the agency was inclined to approve the application, they could review and approve it with the condition that the applicant would have to follow whatever he finds on those plans when he gets that report. This evening we have Ron Dorelio, who's the architect for the project, on the call. And Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, I'll share my screen now, which I...
Yes, please do.
show you. I was on the site this morning and share those pictures with you. We've got, what you're seeing right now is the view from Pearl Street to the site. The stone pillars are just off site on either side of the property. They're about 1.5 feet off of the site on either side. Difficult to see, but right here there's an orange stake, which is the front left corner of the house. As you move through, you can kind of see way in the distance here. I might make it a little bit bigger. There's some chairs in a clearing. As we walk towards those chairs, you can see the front stake of the house, some side stakes of the house. As you get to the back of the house has like is rectangular and then has like a triangle at the rear. These 2 points are the very rear point. I'm sorry, the right rear house corner this is the right rear house corner. And this is the very rear point of the house. The Phragmites over here is approximately where the wetlands are. Same thing. This is that right rear corner. And the wetland flag is in the Phragmites. Did not find it in the rain this morning. I apologize. But it's about 22 feet off of this corner. And this is back in the street again, looking at the site from the opposite side. You've got the pillar and you can see the front stake of the house. If we move on to the drawings, you can see I'm not quite sure what this is called, Ron, but it's a rectangle with a triangle on the end for simplicity.
I'm not sure if there's a term for that.
Mr. Chairman, any questions for me?
I guess the question would be, question on my mind would be, do you recommend that we wait for the engineering matter to be reviewed and completed? That's generally how we practice, I believe, so.
Typically, if there's not going to be any changes to the plan, the agency needs to see the revised plans. I don't know if it's a typographical, nothing's come back to say it was a typographical error that this system was designed and sized to the 2002 manual, or if new calculations had to be made. They have an increase of 0.3, so they're going to have to probably increase the size of this stormwater infiltration around the lot, or add a rain barrel somewhere.
Right. I guess before I ask any other questions, is it Delario?
Durilio.
Aurelio, do you have anything else to add to the record? And you could also state your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Ron Durilio, architect, local in Milford. And I don't really have much to add, just that we'll comply with whatever the city engineer was asking for. Our engineer just didn't get it done on time for tonight's meeting.
Right. Any other thoughts or questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Field?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
The thing that's really going to change is I looked at the calculations. It's like Mary Rose says, 0.3 more, which their engineer is working on. I don't foresee anything major changing the site, and per se, you might have to add a rain barrel on for that calculations. I mean, the plan is a very good plan. If I understand correctly, it's the same gentleman who built the 2 houses across the street. I don't believe we had any problems with those houses, and I don't foresee anything with this one. It's a well drawn out plan. He has not only silt fence, but hay bales. So he's very conscious of where he is and, you know, the type of work that has to be done in the area. I'm thinking we could just approve it subject to those final calculations, and we see what they are and what they're going to be. And of course, you know, we won't issue the permit until we get those. That way it just kind of streamlines it for us somewhat. And if it comes back in the calculations and he has to do a lot on it, well then, you know, Greg will review it again and we'll get recommendations. And, you know, it's pretty straightforward down there. Everything is either rain barrels or rain garden, or they could do it in the ground, you know, with the French drains. So
Thanks for the suggestion. I'm open to that idea. Are there any other thoughts or concerns, or do we have a motion to move forward? Commissioner Bedeker?
I'll make that motion.
Just state the motion that you're intending to,
I make the motion to continue to streamline the proposal, and if there's any problems with the size of rain barrels or whatever, we'll circle back to that.
right, and just to be clear, you're making a motion to approve the application as presented, subject to the engineering sign off.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Bedeker, so you'd be looking to have compliance with the city engineer's requirements.
That's it.
Mayor Rose, do you want to read the motion as intended by Mr. Bedeker?
Okay, we've written a series of motions, including approval, denial, public hearing, all the typical motions. Motion for approve states, Mr. Chairman, after considering all relevant factors, I move to approve application IW 240054, 34 Pearl Street, based on the plans entitled Pearl Street Development LLC, 34 Pearl Street, Milford, Connecticut, by NOK, 2 sheets dated 6/12/22, revised 6/6/24. The information in the file and presented this evening, as this action will not have an impact or effect on the physical characteristic of the adjacent wetlands and watercourses. With conditions including the permittee must submit the architectural plans and a construction plan prior to taking out the permit. Soil erosion and sedimentation controls as outlined on the plans and in the Connecticut DEP 2024 Erosion Sedimentation Control Manual must be installed and maintained on the site until the property is stabilized. Wetland notification to be placed on the as-built and in the property deed to give notification to the property owners that permits are required from the MIWA to work on the site. Documentation to be submitted to the MIWA office prior to bond release. Compliance with the city engineer's requirements as stated in his memo received 7/30/24. Do you want me to, through you, Mr. Chairman, do you want the date on that memo, or you just want to say the city engineer's memo?
I would say the city engineer's memo as you described earlier.
Alrighty. The permit may not make alterations to the structure, facilities, or activity authorized by the permit unless the permittee applies for and receives a modification of the permit. No filling or grading other than that shown on the approved plans without additional approvals. A bond of $6,150 must be posted with the MIWA for S&E controls, border plantings, wetland boundary markers, and an as-built showing finished 2-foot contours and locating all site structures. The permittee must submit a certification by the project engineer that the completed project meets the design intent of the approval prior to the bonds being released. Permit is issued 8/7/24 and expires 8/7/29 unless otherwise provided by statute.
Thank you for that reading. So the motion was made by Commissioner Bedeker. Do we have a second on the motion?
I second the motion. Oops, sorry, Steve.
All right, whatever.
Who
You guys pick.
Steve,
I-
go.
Sorry, who is the second, please?
Commissioner Munson. Commissioner Munson.
Okay,
Thank you.
I second.
And do we have any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Sorry, bear with me. Mr. Baddicker,
Aye.
Mr. Bave,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Mr. Connors,
Aye.
Mr. Munson,
Aye,
Mr. Field,
Aye.
and Chairman Magnin.
Aye. Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Mr. Durello, good luck with the project. Be sure to work with Mary Rose on the final portions of the application.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. That would be, bear with me, I believe it's E1. Mary Rose, do you want to introduce this one?
Sure.
New business.
It's new business. I'm going to share the screen so you can see a little bit of the plan while I'm talking, and then if Mr. Wassmer wants to share a screen after, he can take over.
Thank you.
All righty. So, Mr. Chairman, this is item E1. It's IW 240055. It's 0 Cascade Boulevard. It's a proposal by Cascade Milford LLC to construct an office/warehouse and a caretaker house with construction grading, drainage, and parking within 100 feet of a wetland in the south central shoreline watershed. The applicant is proposing a retaining wall within 23 feet of the wetlands, grading within 8.5 feet, and stormwater infiltration within 9.5 feet of the wetlands on the site. Silt fence is proposed within 2 feet of the wetlands, and the plans have been sent to the city engineer for review. This evening we have Ron Wassmer of Connecticut Civil Group to present the application.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronald Wasmer, professional engineer, land surveyor with an office at 158 Research Drive, Milford, Connecticut. And I'm here representing Cascade Boulevard LLC. Mary Rose is giving you a quick overview of the project. Cascade Boulevard is primarily in Industrial Park Road. You access Cascade Boulevard from Marsh Hill Road in Orange. It does go through to Heenan Drive to the south, but that at the cul-de-sac, it's there's a fence, a gate between the Ryder Woods community and Heenan Drive. So in general, it's a dead-end street. Not that that's relevant to wetlands, but if you want to access the property, you have to access it from Marsh Hill Road. It's approximately 1.7 acres. About 40% of the property is wetlands. The wetlands were flagged by Bill Kenny. We are proposing 2 buildings, a light industrial building with an office and warehousing, as well as a caretaker's building. Proposing approximately 20 parking spaces. The topography is generally a knoll. It rises up as you leave the street and then it drops back down towards the wetlands. To maximize the separation between the proposed parking and the wetlands, we're proposing a modular block retaining wall. We have a storm drainage system for the 25-year storm, which is in the low portion of the parking lot, with an overflow to a level spreader just beyond the retaining wall. We do have a sedimentation and erosion control plan. We indicate 2 rows of silt fencing, one close to the wetlands, one about 5 feet away. The clearing limits would generally be at the just beyond the limits of the retaining wall, except in the except where the level spreader is proposed. There we would do a little additional clearing to install that level spreader. I'm aware that there was turtle activity. I can't say firsthand if it's on this property, but it's on the DEP website. Within our plan set on the wetland mitigation plan, we have some notations about exclusionary practices to do our best to ensure that we're not causing any harm to any of the box turtles on site. We also have a landscaping plan that was done by Matt Pop. He's a landscape architect. He's familiar with wetland plantings and etc. So we used his expertise on that. The end result, the property will be gradually sloped, a slight incline from the street, and then it drops down towards the wetland, but it's a parking lot, so it'll be relatively gentle slope. But again, to minimize any grading within the wetlands, we proposed a retaining wall with the limits of the parking lot. I guess that's the general gist of the plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We did submit a hydrology report to the city engineer, and I believe he has a full-size set of plans. And I haven't heard any comments from him, but you know, if he has any comments, we'll be happy to address them. I'm familiar with what he's looking for on the plan, so I would think that we have covered most of the bases, but of course, you know, you may see something that he thinks takes some little extra consideration. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Great, thanks, Mr. Wasmer. Do we have any questions for Mr. Wasmer?
Yeah, through you, so Mr. Chair, this is Ranjit.
Sure.
I'm not sure if my video is on or not, so I don't see myself.
It is on. We see you.
Okay, thank you. So a few questions. The retaining wall, how high is it?
It varies. The maximum, it varies from like 2 feet up to a maximum of about 6 feet. Over in the southeast corner is the tallest portion of the wall.
Okay. And the two 36-inch pipes, so are you going to replace those pipes? Are they new pipes or they're existing pipes?
Oh, the large storm drain running under the street?
Yeah.
No, that's an existing water.
Okay.
course.
Okay, so that looks like that's a proposed pipe. So I guess anyway. So my question about the retaining wall, that is 6 feet tall wall, will that cause any shadow effect onto the upland area? Because right now that area will be getting sunlight, right? I mean, with the height of the wall, will that cause any shadow
Well,
effect?
the sun is going to shine on this property from the south. The retaining wall will be at grade. Everything on the uphill side of the retaining wall will be a parking area. On the downhill side, there wouldn't be any shading because it's on the south side. The sun would be shining
Okay.
towards the wall.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Rove. Additional questions?
For you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Connors?
This question might be more directed at Mary Rose. Mary Rose, in terms of the eastern box turtles, like when those are identified in the area, what type of protections can we expect from the developer and for them?
Ron, what page is the exclusionary box turtle plan?
It's on the wetland mitigation plan, sheet 5 of 9. We have a
Close.
couple bullets listed. You might have gone past it. Back up a couple sheets.
Back up, sorry.
Keep going back. Well, that could be it. It looks a little, yep, nope, one more sheet forward.
Forward.
There you go. Right there, stop.
I guess just while you're looking this up, Mary Rose, because I know that for the
On
eastern
the right
box
side of
turtle,
the, I'm sorry to interrupt, but on the right side of the plan is the comments, some bullets about providing some exclusionary practices, some fencing, inspections prior to construction, and whatnot. But I'll let Mary Rose comment after that. Sorry for interrupting.
That's
Sure.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for helping me locate it. The eastern box turtle is a threatened and endangered species that was found on 2 sites in the area of this property. And so National Diversity Database shows these turtles in the range of their area. They can be within 1,500 feet of where they were found. So the bubble for that turtle range encompasses portions of this site. The state's protocol when there's known turtles in the area is a turtle exclusionary plan, which Ron has outlined here. It's to prevent turtles from accessing the site during construction. And I think Ron Wasmer alluded to the fact that retaining wall at 2 to 6 feet of height will help to exclude the turtles from getting into the parking area. We did something different on 2 adjacent sites where they had a split rail fence with a piece coming off the bottom, also elevated, so that the turtles can't climb over the wall. So they can't get up over the wall, and therefore they can't get into the parking lot where they can be run over. So typically the exclusionary practices are pre-construction areas where they maybe are searched. We do a pre-construction meeting and we walk the site looking for turtles, put them on the opposite side, the site portion of the site not to be disturbed, so that the contractors can put the silt fence in. We can make sure the turtles are safe. They have to laminate pictures of the turtle and keep them in the trailer. When they did them used, they put them in the excavators. So then tacked them to trees so that if any worker walking around found one, he put it on the safe side of the fence. And that's the general plan. And to ensure that the silt fence is up and running at all times, if you lose the erosion control barrier, you also lose the turtle barrier. So the contractor or the project manager needs to be aware, and on top of, if there's any breaks in the silt fence, he needs to fix that, not only for us because we don't want any silt going in the wetlands, but to ensure the turtles don't slip through. And if there has been a break, to double check the site to make sure none of them have gone up. They'll typically go up in the spring to nest. So they're looking for sandy areas to nest, or for sun.
do we have any pictures of the site as is? Like in terms of, did we do any sort of scouting is there current habitat on the property? Has there been nests on the property? That sort of.
I have not walked the site. I did not get out there today, Ron. I don't know if
So the site is wooded. It's a wooded site.
Because
I
guess my main.
I haven't seen any nests, but the nests are not very big, and they wouldn't really be obvious at this time of the year.
this time of year is very difficult to find them. They're more active between late April and June, depending upon how cold and wet it's been. I can share again, Mr. Chairman. About to share a GIS map from the Municity system. It's a Google map. So this is the site, within the last couple of years when this Google map was taken. The site is in the curve of Cascade Boulevard, which is shown on Ron's plan. There's development here and over here. And these are commercial buildings. And I think I can turn on that NDDB layer. As you can see, the hatched area that came on the screen covers all the way across the street to this site, all of this site, and some of that site. So the turtles have been found in the area, and that's the protection, is to do exclusion to make sure that they're protected during construction. I don't know that we would have found nests this time of year.
Yeah, just to throw in the reason I'm asking about the nests is they don't leave within I guess their whole life they live within 250 yards of the nesting area. So I was just curious.
Yeah, they typically hang out, in the wetlands, and then they'll come sun themselves. And then they estivate in the winter into the wetlands. This map that's slowly populating is an older 2019 map. It's leaf off, so you can see it's a wooded site, as Ron said.
And can you show that hatch grid again on top of this layer?
Sure. I don't know if that shows up a little bit better.
Yeah, that definitely helps. Okay. So approximately where would the exclusion fence be installed? If you could just kind of using this pictorial, can you kind of show that, Mary Rose? Where would it? I'm
thinking, Ron, if you can correct me.
We would put the exclusionary fence. We have 2 rows of silt fence. We can also put in a 20-inch tall, like chicken wire fence, which would go roughly along the limits of the wetlands. The clearing limits would be closer to the retaining wall, so we could bob and weave around the trees. I mean, it's drawn as a nice straight line in places, but so that's around where the exclusionary fence would be.
I mean, if it's easier to show on the plans, Mary Rose, that's
yeah, it will be. Sorry.
It's okay.
The wetland is shown on that map. The wetland is an approximate wetland. The wetland delineated on this map is Bill Kenny's actual line. So.
Sure.
So on this plan works, but on the erosion control plan, the silt fence follows along the wetlands line. And then we have 2 rows of silt fence.
Okay. And the fact that the plan is to have Mr. Kenny be there prior to construction gives me a lot of comfort. And Matt, Mr. Connors, you asked the same question I had in mind.
Prior to any clearing of land, we'll have a site meeting with whoever the contractor is. No one's been selected at this point.
For you, Mr. Chair, yeah, that is just my main concern in terms of the construction and what turtles might be on site, because it's very easy to miss them and very easy to run them over if there's construction vehicles on site.
Agreed. Mary Rose, remind me, has the engineer reviewed this set of plans?
No, we just received this set of plans at this meeting. So city engineer has them. He has not reviewed them as of yet. He did pick them up. I don't know when we can expect that report.
Okay. Does the agency feel like a site walk is necessary for this?
Chairman.
Mr. Munson.
Yeah, I think a site walk might be in order here, but I don't know if we should do it before or after we get the engineer's review, only because he may come up with a couple things that we want to look at.
Yep, I'm in agreement with that approach, Mr. Munson. I think it warrants a site visit as well. Happy to, Mary Rose, I'm happy to yield to you. Do you think we should wait until the engineering has done his first initial review?
I think that's reasonable. If the agency wants to have a site walk, we can make a motion for a site walk to be set up by myself, and then I'll consult with all of you on days that work.
I'm in favor of that.
Once we know when the engineer has time.
Sounds good. Do we have a motion for that?
Okay, all right, do you want to, should we pick a date or just say we want a site walk to be determined?
The latter. This way Mary Rose can coordinate as necessary.
All right, let's see. Mr. Chairman, I move that a site walk be scheduled for application IW 240055 Cascade Boulevard at a date to be determined by our compliance officer and/or chairman. That is my motion.
Thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a second from Mr. Field. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Meg, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bedecker,
Aye.
Mr. Bave,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Mr. Connors, Mr. Munson,
Aye.
Mr. Field,
Aye.
and Chairman Magnin.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Westmer, for the initial presentation, and look forward to the site visit to be scheduled.
Okay, great, thank you.
If there's any additional information anyone from the agency determines they want to see after reviewing the plans, please be in touch with Mary Rose directly before the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Let's move on. Let's move on to E2, Mary Rose.
I'm gonna call up the map for that one. Give me just a second. And try to share it. Mr. Chairman, this is IW 240056. It is 674 Naugatuck Avenue. The aerial you're seeing right now is that same aerial system we just saw, but it gives you a location of the site. And we can get rid of that. Okay, so this is a proposal by 674 Naugatuck Avenue LLC for a parking lot expansion with grading and stormwater system within 100 feet of a wetland in the Housatonic River watershed. The applicant is proposing to add a secondary driveway for access, to enlarge the parking area, and add a stormwater infiltration system for pretreatment and infiltration of stormwater. The closest work to the wetland is the silt fencing, which is within approximately 5 feet of the wetland at its and the new curbing for the parking area, which will be within 11 feet of the wetland at the closest point. The plans have been sent to the city engineer for review. We do not have that review back as of yet. Mr. Chairman, this evening we have Mr. Ron Wassmer of Connecticut Civil Group to do the presentation for us.
Great. Thank you, Mary Rose. Mr. Wassmer.
Good evening again, Ronald Wasmer, professional engineer, land surveyor with office at 158, representing 158 Research Drive, representing Thermoseal. That's a manufacturing company. They're in contract to purchase this existing building, and they want to make some modifications to for access primarily, and some minor parking improvements. In the process of doing this, we've brought our client's attention to the fact of stormwater management that There is none on the site at this time, and we're slightly increasing the impervious cover, so we're adhering to the City of Milford guidelines as well as the stormwater control manual from the state of Connecticut to improve water quality. Mary Rose, can you bring up the site plan?
Yes, thank you. Not sure
Yeah,
which
that's good
sheet
for
you would
now.
like, Ron.
That's good for now. So the building is an existing building. The parking lot on the south side is existing, but we're widening it slightly to add some additional parking spaces. This parcel of land at one time was larger, and when they did the reconstruction of the bridge over the Housatonic River that carries I-95, the state of Connecticut acquired a portion of this land and built a detention pond that you'll see to the north. Our client would like to add an additional driveway on the north side of his property for ease of getting trucks in and out of the site. He's also constructing a 4 slabs outside the rear of the building for storage of raw materials. There'll be a loading dock on the south side of the building as well as a loading dock on the north side of the building. You'll see the wetlands, which were again flagged by Bill Kenny on the, I'm going to say the kind of the southwest corner of the property. So one thing to, as a benefit of this proposal is the current curb line is quite close to the existing wetlands line. We were able to make some minor modifications with the proposed pavement, and we're moving this curb line slightly away from the wetlands. Right now, from wetlands number 7, the existing pavement, which is in poor condition, but nevertheless, it's a paved surface, is about 7 feet to the wetlands, and we're proposing to be 12 feet. At wetlands 8, the existing pavement is 12 feet, we're proposing 15. At wetlands number 9, the existing pavement is 14 foot and change, and we're proposing to be 21. And at wetlands number 10, there's kind of a leak off of the existing paved parking area. It's 6.5 feet to wetlands 10, and we're proposing to be 18 feet. We're not making any significant changes to the grade. It all pitches from Naugatuck Avenue down towards the wetlands in the back. However, we are proposing a fair amount of storm drainage in accordance with the regulations that I mentioned. If we want to flip to the grading plan, which is the next plan. So this shows existing and proposed contours. You'll notice that the existing and the proposed are very similar. We're proposing a catch basin and galley system about 1/3 of the way into the parking lot on the south side of the building. We're also proposing the catch basin and the galley system on the north side of the building about halfway in. Both of those will tie into an additional galley system at the southwest corner of the property. There is an existing, I think it's the existing 18-inch pipe. It kind of runs from Naugatuck Avenue. We don't know exactly where it's coming from. It shows up on some city records, but we did see the existing outlet. I believe it comes from some manholes in Naugatuck Avenue, and they're paved over, so I can't get into those. So what I'm getting to is that we're tying in our proposed storm drainage system into that existing pipe, so we don't have to make any additional intrusions into the wetlands. The pavement will be in better condition. It'll still be an impervious surface, but it'll be less subject to erosion than it is right now. The catch basins will include water quality chambers as well as a fair amount of infiltration to the ground, where currently absolutely nothing exists. We're providing 100% of the water quality volume that's required by the
Ron, could you speak up a little bit? I think we're having trouble hearing you.
His screen just froze. I think he had some internet problems.
suggested by the water quality manual. By it's a fairly large system
Mr. Wassmer?
because there's quite a bit of
He's having connection issues, yeah.
Yeah.
impervious here.
Hey, Rose, maybe stop sharing the map for a moment.
There's no
I'm gonna try to call him.
He seems to have dropped off.
Just letting him back in.
Okay, sorry about that interruption. I don't know what happened.
No problem, Mr. Wassmer.
Okay, I was talking about the filtration system. Did you get all that? And then I was moving on to sedimentation and erosion control. Okay.
We sort of heard you up until when you were talking about the pavement being replaced, and then you faded.
Okay, so I'll back up a couple paragraphs. So the majority of the site is paved. It's existing paved. We're providing water quality volume as suggested by the DEP guidelines, stormwater erosion control manual. It's a fairly large system because there is nothing provided at the moment, and there is a fair amount of impervious on here. Actually, almost 2 acres of impervious. So the water leaving the site entering the wetlands should be much cleaner than what leaves the site now. I don't know if you caught it, but I did mention that there's an existing 18-inch storm drain and that we're going to tie into that. Okay, good. Erosion control, we have the typical erosion control measures, anti-tracking pads and silt fence. And then there's some additional pages that are not really relevant to wetlands, illumination, truck access that we're doing for the fire department. And we have our My favorite landscape architect also prepared a plan for us here. Matt Pop, and so here he's proposed some wetland plantings as well as landscaping in accordance with the city of Milford planning and zoning landscaping requirements.
What page is that on?
It's LP1. It's one of the last pages in the plan set. Third to the last. Getting there. That's existing condition survey that was done by Andrew Flanagan. One more page, I think. There's Matt Pop's landscaping plan. So he's proposing some plantings along the south edge of the parking lot in closest proximity to the wetlands. There's really not much room to do much between the existing pavement and the wetlands, but he's proposing trees primarily in accordance with the planning and zoning requirements. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Is there a snow shelf designated somewhere or a couple?
I can designate them on the plan. They'll be within the existing paved areas.
You said you can, but they're not there now.
What's that?
They're not designated currently.
They're not on the plan now.
Okay, we'd like to see those in relation to the wetlands.
Okay.
Are there any wetland boundary markers at the moment there?
There's not. You certainly can install them.
Yeah, that would also be a standard condition. How about barriers to the wetlands in that vicinity of the wetlands? Are there any, or is it just the pavement kind of just ends?
The pavement, there's a curb line, but there's no physical barrier, so we could propose a fence,
Right,
split rail fence.
that would be good. That would be good. Let's do that.
I apologize for overlooking that. I think we got
No problem. That's
carried away with our drainage and forgot about some
no
of it.
problem. That's an easy add. So, how about just in terms of the truck, traffic and everything? Are there sort of oil, sort of catches in the area of the loading docks and things like that?
The drainage system has water quality separators, oil water separators in a generic term.
Okay.
There is a trench drain in one of the loading docks that's connected to the stormwater system via water quality chamber.
That may be something the engineer may want to look at, but we'll
So
leave it to
the
expert.
loading dock on the north side of the building has a trench drain just because it's kind of below the rest of the parking lot. But that drains towards a stormwater water quality manhole prior to entering into the. So you see the loading dock on the north side of the building. Yeah, right there. Yeah. So that's depressed. The grade is lower than the adjacent driveway. So we're catching water in that lowest part of that loading dock and then putting it in a trench drain and running it to the west. And right there is a water quality manhole
Okay.
prior to going into the storm drainage galleys. From what I was told by the client, it's not like a trucking terminal, but they do have raw materials that come in on tractor trailer trucks, maybe a half a dozen a week. And then they ship out finished product in smaller trucks on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions from the agency? Mr. Munson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ron, you mentioned, through you, Mr. Chairman, Ron, you mentioned storage of raw materials in the back,
Yes.
or where is
You
that,
see
are
those
they,
that says slab, 1, 2, 3, and 4? Yes.
okay, right.
So they have that's a slab with a containment system.
Okay,
For
what are the raw
prevention.
materials being stored back
They're
there?
chemicals that they use to make foam insulation.
Okay, but they're not, are they in some sort of an enclosure, or,
Those particular slabs
yeah,
have a containment in case of an accidental spill. So
I'm
it's
sorry?
not just a slab on grade, it's a slab with a wall around it. The
Hey, Ron, when you're
material-
speaking, speak towards the microphone because
I'm sorry about that.
your
I'm
voice
sorry.
is pretty faint.
So those slabs are not just slabs at grade, they're slabs with a containment system. The raw materials come in various, barrels. And they're stored in that slab, on those slabs, and then brought into the building. And then they manufacture with these raw materials, they manufacture foam insulation. Thermal Seal is the name of the company, and that's what they manufacture. Prior to this building was a machine shop.
I'm sorry, it was a what?
Machine shop. For the last few years, I think it's just been used kind of as a warehousing, but for a long time it was a tool manufacturing shop, parts for Pratt & Whitney, whatever, Sikorsky.
Okay. So those raw materials are being used on site in the building, correct?
Yes,
And they're just stored outside, then used inside.
correct.
So to Mr. Munson's question, was there any consideration to extend the building to store them inside the building? Like, what's the risk of these, I understand your point about the slab having some enclosure, but they're moving product around to the loading dock presumably from the slabs, and what's to prevent accidental spills in the adjacent area of the wetlands?
The chemicals are flammable, and the building code, I can't speak as an expert to this, but they have an engineer that's dealing with the Milford Fire Department. They don't want the chemicals stored inside the building.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Connors, go ahead.
Just so I understand, so those slabs are proposed, they're not currently there, right? So this is part of the new construction?
That's correct. And on the
Is-
site plan, it pulls out, there's a couple different slabs. Sorry, I gotta face the microphone. Some of them are class 2 flammables, some of them's class 3A flammables. I don't know what that means. Some of them are non-flammable, and one of the slabs is a chiller. I guess it's some sort of a cooling tower for some
I'm
purpose.
sorry, I couldn't hear you on the last one.
Okay. Oh, the last one is slab number 4. It says it's a chiller, which I guess is some sort of something to cool something down, or could be part of their HVA system. I'm not positive.
For you, Mr. Chair, is it realistic to ask for the changing of location of those slabs?
Not necessarily. This is set up for them to utilize this building, and there's an overhead door in the back. The site kind of drops from Naugatuck Avenue towards the wetlands. So the majority of the building is below grade. You'll see a line that says office area in the front. So that's kind of, it's a little below grade of the street, but right where that dashed line is inside the building is about an 8-foot drop. And the rest of the slab is level with the overhead door in the back.
Where's the overhead door? I see.
there.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we definitely need a better expert, Mr. Wassmer, from the application team, an engineer. We need a lot more assurances around what the plan would be with regard to these chemicals in the adjacent area.
Okay.
What are the mitigation strategies as it relates to moving from, for example, slab number 1 all the way around slab number 2 into the overhead? Like, we have obvious concern about any kind of risk associated with contamination of the assets and the resources. And obviously the tenant would have the same concerns, but presumably they have sort of protocols, and we need to better understand all that.
So
And actually,
prior to us getting involved, he engaged an engineer who's registered in the state of Connecticut. I don't know that he lives in Connecticut, but he is the one that came up with this overall plan for them. And I can call him and ask him to participate at the next meeting.
yes, please. And ask him if he considered any alternative locations and whether those locations were determined to be prudent and feasible.
Sure. I did ask him that already, but I'll let him speak for that on his own.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, this is Brian Black. And can we have some more information on what this containment system comprises of?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Munson.
Ron, are these chemicals are the same thing that the company is using now in their operations? You
Yes.
know, they are.
This company is an existing company. They currently manufacture. You're familiar with the typical insulation these days is not well, you could picture the pink bats that you could buy at Home Depot. A lot of the insulation now is that spray foam insulation.
Right.
So this company manufactures that spray foam.
And they're not on site currently, Mr. Munson. They operate in another location currently, correct, Mr.
Oh, I
Munson?
see.
That's correct. I think
Okay.
they may have gone in and started to clean up the building, but they're not producing anything here. As far as I know, they don't have anything.
They recently bought the building. They
They're
operate
under
somewhere else.
contract to buy the building.
I see. Okay. And this is foam insulation? Is that what
That's what they manufacture, yes, foam insulation.
Would that be those foam boards, for example, that you put on EDM roofs?
No, I think it's the kind that they spray. They show up with a truck. They have chemicals in the truck. They spray it in the cavity of the wall. It hardens relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I remember correctly, people I used to work for actually had as clients, insurance clients that did this stuff, made this stuff, and insured the installers. It's basically two chemicals that are not terribly dangerous, particularly, but excuse me, Mr. Chairman. All right. So I understand that the two chemicals are put into the location at the same time, and that creates the installations, as I remember. I mean
That's fine, Mr. Munson. We don't.
Through you, Mr. Chair,
We don't need to deal
Mr.
with.
Connors has a question.
Yeah, I'm just closing the loop with Mr. Munson. Mr.
Yeah.
Munson, we'll just pursue the line of questioning as we have. It's fine. We don't need to be an expert in the
okay.
chemicals.
No, I just had a technical question about it, but that's all right.
Okay,
I-
Mr. Connors?
Yeah, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. My issue with the plan is that it's it's a stormwater and parking lot proposal, correct? It doesn't make clear that those slabs don't already exist. And it's proposed slabs, right? So none of this stuff is currently in place, or am I just misreading the map?
On site plan SP1, it calls out proposed slabs. This is
Okay.
the grading and drainage plan. If you go back to
Gotcha.
the
Okay.
sheet,
I'll take a closer look into this. That was just my main.
Mary Rose is calling it up right now. So
Right
those
here.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions in regards to this application that we need Mr. Wassmer to address for the next meeting?
Just to add through you, Mr. Chair, if we can have the engineer ready to answer in terms of the transportation of these said materials as well, as in between slabs or just directly into the building, just
Yes, that's
I'm
what I
not sure.
addressed. That's what I addressed already, but thank you for reconfirming. Mr. Wassmer, you got it?
Yep. How do you move the raw materials into the building?
Yeah. How they're, the whole end-to-end process, how they're delivered, how they're transported in and around the building, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Okay.
Through you,
Moving on.
Mr. Chair.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair. Ron, can we either have the MSDS sheets for the chemicals, or can the expert engineer on the chemicals explain their impact if they interact with water and wetlands?
Writing this down.
Mhm.
All right. I wrote that down.
And my only other thought is just, again, leaving it to the expert, but did the engineer consider any kind of mitigation strategies insofar as any kind of in relation to the proposed slabs? I appreciate that they're kind of enclosed, but what if, what are there any kind of barrier kind of strategies that need to be considered in regards to, curbing or any kind of structures that might prevent that any unintentional accidental spillage from traveling into the pond?
Okay. Any other questions?
I think that addresses our
Take your
initial
time, think
questions.
through the plan.
That addresses our
If
initial
anything comes
questions.
up over the course of the next few days, Mary Rose can contact me.
Right.
I presume we'll be here in 2 weeks, right?
That's the plan.
Yep.
Okay, unless there's any other questions, Mary Rose, is there any final thoughts on this matter before we move on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, does the agency want to walk this site, or do they want further information before deciding that?
I'd be a fan of waiting until we get more information before we make that determination.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Milton?
I agree with that. Especially, well, the city engineer will be looking at it. He'll be taking into consideration the particulars about the chemicals also, correct? I mean, that would be relevant to him, right?
I think that's a question to Mary Rose.
Yeah, I don't believe the I don't believe the city engineer is also a chemical engineer, but he'll have pertinent questions that he'll pose in his review. And if we need additional expert review, he'll let me know. Just to note for the record, Mr. Bave had to leave the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the next agenda item. Mr. Wassmer, thanks very much for
Thank
the
you.
initial
Have a good night.
presentation. Next on the agenda, the consideration of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
For July 17th?
Correct, for the last regular meeting of July 17th. Do we have a motion to approve those as presented?
So moved.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second for Mr. Black. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Sorry, before you proceed with that motion, just for clarification, was just no action on that previous?
Correct.
Thank you.
Meg, roll call vote on the motion, please.
Mr. Bedecker,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Mr. Connors,
Abstain.
Mr. Munson.
Aye.
Mr. Field,
Aye.
and Chairman Magnin.
Abstain. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up on the agenda, Mary Rose, do you have a staff report?
I do. I'll do the reduced version. The long version are in the notes, the draft notes that were sent out this afternoon. Offices has been very busy. We're down a few folks in the DPLU, and as Meg can attest, we're all covering each other's offices to try to get the work of the city done in a professional and quick manner. We're answering emails, phones, and counter inquiries. We're doing minor reviews and submitting reports to other departments as we are required to. We've had a few pools and decks to finish out the season, and mostly in the upland review areas. There's more information in my notes about training opportunities, the other programs I work on, and some project statuses. One note I want to let you know, they in Joe Griffith's absence, the city will allow me to work on the community resource program that we've talked about in the past, the rating system for FEMA. There's a large audit for that on November 15th, which will require a significant amount of preparation. And I've asked for Taft Clark, our clerk, to be allowed to do some of the minor work that I do, letter writing, things like that, talking to some of the public at the counter as I've trained him, working on updating our mapping while I'm working on the CRS project. The city's considering that, but if that were to come, I'll bring that before the agency so that you can allow him to do that work as well. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that that is a possibility. Does anybody have any questions for me?
None here. Okay, thank you very much for the support to the entire team. Thanks for the report out. Next meeting will be the regular meeting on August 21st. Please let the office know if you're unable to attend. Thanks everybody for this evening's deliberation. Great questions. Thanks Meg Green for standing in for Lisa. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call vote.
Mr. Bedecker,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Mr. Connors,
Aye.
Mr. Munson,
Aye.
Mr. Field,
Aye.
and Chairman Magnin.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Munson, for covering for me last week. I meant to say that earlier.
No problem.
Thank you.
Lindsay,
No,
we're all set. Thank you,
anytime.
Meg.
My pleasure.
Good night.